Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for the webinar, Translating Data into Business Value. With that, I will hand it over to Chris.
Thank you, Caitlin. I'm just having a little trouble with my webcam, so I think the audio is clear enough at the moment, isn't it? Thank you.
Great.
Thanks for that introduction. I'm delighted to be joined by Robin Rastogi and Prashant Pawar today. I'm the chairman of Nihilent Australia. My relationship originally goes back to the founder of Nihilent, LC Singh. I was at Harvard Business School with LC in the 90s, and he was, I think, international director of Tata Consultancy at that time, and then he set up his own organization, Nihilent. He's a very wise, intelligent, well-experienced businessman. I think Robin is probably employee number 4. So Nihilent's gone from a couple of people in about the turn of 21st century to something like over 2,000 now. It spans certainly India, the United States, Africa, England, Australia. We've been in Australia, Robin, a couple of years. I know you're going to expand on that in a moment. I've been the chairman of the Australian Communications Media Authority for a decade. I'm on the board of, or chairing of Research Australia. As I said, chair of Nihilent Australia. And I've been involved in any number of digital platforms, currently as an investor or co-founder. And I am really excited and have been about the way Nihilent goes about their business, the idea of it, ideating and then incubating and industrializing. They always say, you know, there's process, technology, governance, and people, and anybody can do the process, anyone can secure the technology, and anybody can put in place good governance. But it's the fourth aspect, the people aspect, that's the most important. And that's what certainly Nihilent does. It brings together multidisciplinary teams. We've got domain experts. We've got one of the world's experts in data analytics, and converting that data into business value in Prashant today. So I'm delighted, Prashant, you're joining us. It's been an incredible time. I mentioned the ACMA, started that in 2006, and the thing called the smartphone started in 2008. The world's changed, exponential change, and just when you thought things were normalizing, in Australia, for example, you've had bushfires and massive impact, billions and billions of dollars in claim. You've had COVID and seeing government policy and the agility and potentially generational burdens. We've got recession for the first time in Australia in over 20 years. We've actually got higher savings going on and lower consumption and lower incomes. You've got cyber attacks from state-sponsored actors. Our relationship with China is interesting in trade wars in beef and barley, coal. There's an intersection there between diplomatic war and economic wars. You've got clearly shift in economic behaviours. What is the new normal? You've got any number of dynamics going on, and to make sense of that has never been more important. In my observation, people set out with the best of intentions on digital transformations, data analytics, and they come up short more often than not. And it's the people aspect that often trips them up. I know from many conversations with Prashant that he's going to draw today on his international experience. And we're probably, I might, Robin, I'll let you introduce yourself, and Prashant. Prashant's got extraordinary pedigrees. He's built enterprise scale systems for data processing, data analytics, data migrations, architectural transformations right around the world, in the United States, in Europe, and certainly in India. Bachelor's degree in engineering, executive master's degree in technology management. He's a specialist in big data disciplines, and I'm very much looking forward to him today. I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves, but we might just go to the next slide and have a quick look at the agenda we're going to cover today. Robin's going to give a brief overview of Nihilent, and then it's into Prashant, where he talks about how you actually realize the full potential of big data and analytics. Surprisingly, only about, I'd say, 50% of the time you actually do. As I've underscored a couple of times, technology is not actually the barrier, it's the total package and the way you go about it. And how you actually move from securing and combining data and turning that data into content, and then getting insights and actionable insights and turning that into business value. That's actually the harder part. And Nihilent does it better than anybody internationally in the world. So I'm looking forward to hearing Prashant on that and how organizations from his international perspective are leveraging data for new revenue models of business growth. You'll pull that together, and I think at the end of it, Caitlin, we're going to take some questions with some closing remarks. So on that note, after a much longer introduction than I anticipated, Rob, I'm going to hand over to you.
Thank you, Chris. Hi, everyone. Prashant, could we have that Nihilent slide on? Yes. As Chris said, we are a global consulting and services company. So we offer business consulting and IT services to clients and companies worldwide. We were set up in the year 2000, not the best of times to set up companies, but so be it. We set up the company. It was first South African investment into an India headquartered enterprise. Our initial shareholders were Nedbank, which is one of the top 4 banks in South Africa. Over the years, that shareholding pattern has changed. We are today an NTT company. So NTT Limited own a significant majority shareholding in Nihilent. As Chris mentioned, we are headquartered in India, but spread globally. So I run the Australia, New Zealand, and the Asia Pacific operations for the company. I'm employee number 3, Chris, not 4. Have been with the company since inception. Seen the journey from starting the company when we were sort of 5 employees to what we've achieved today, which is 2,500 staff worldwide. We've sort of set up operations in South Africa, UK, Europe, US. Over the years, we've made some strategic acquisitions and added companies to our fold as well. One such company was one of the analytics division of Moody's, the credit rating company, which has merged now into Nihilent Analytics, which is our company around data and analytics, which is the focus of today's discussion or webinar. We've partnered with a number of companies. 2 of our most strategic or key partners are Microsoft and SAP, with both of whom we have a gold partnership status. We work with them internationally, and I think some of the case studies that Prashant is going to elaborate on today will touch upon those partnerships as well. Nihilent is quality focused, process driven. We've got the right ISO certifications in place, ISO 9001, which is around quality management system, ISO 27001, which is around security, information security, and then of course we are capability maturity level 5, CMMI level 5 company, which is the highest level of accreditation. Coming on to our service offerings, I've just created these 4 sort of blocks to represent our key services. The first on the top left side is business transformation consulting, which is all around helping companies understand the voice of their customers. And we've devised frameworks and customer listening methodologies. We've used design thinking principles to try and understand the needs, wants, and aspirations of our customers, and see how that could then be taken into our product design, or how our customers design their services and product around those requirements from customers. We look at things like business process optimization, where we use Lean Six Sigma consulting principles. So all this is still very much focused towards the business transformation side. Once you've looked at the process, the customer, your key enterprise stakeholders, you then look at digital enablement, which is covered through the digital transformation services. I won't read a lot of those bullet points, but they are self-explanatory, some of them. I think I'll bring the focus back to data science and analytics. That is where, in our experience, we felt that more recently, a lot of our companies are sort of talking about data analytics and AI and tech, but still that discussion is very much tech focused. And we want to bring in that perspective saying, look, data collection, data storage, data analyzing the data, visualizing the data still doesn't give you an insight from the data. To truly get insights, you then have to marry that with your domain expertise or subject matter expertise. It is those subject matter experts that look at the analysis of the data and then help companies convert those insights into actions. So what are those actions? Those actions could be process related, they could be workforce related, but eventually it's only when those actions are taken that those insights get converted into business value, which is what Prashant will talk about. If I was to just name a couple of our clients in Australia with whom we've done similar engagement, so Air Services Australia, which manages the air traffic control operations for the country, had massive issues with the amount of data that they were collecting through various sensors and IoT devices, data related to flights, departures, flights arrivals, safety records, and all of that. The CEO of Air Services has to present on a 6-month basis to, I think, his minister, and there were issues in how those reports were being presented. Every time there would be a different departments would sort of go into a scuttle mode, trying to figure out what information to present and so on. We were called in, we looked at their enterprise data model, helped them set up the master data management, and then produce the appropriate dashboard or visualization for presenting that data. So that was with Air Services Australia. We are working with AUSTRAC, Australia's premier financial control or financial crime control agency. We've got data scientists who take in or absorb a lot of the financial transaction data and then look for patterns associated with frauds, money laundering, thefts, and so on. So that's an engagement we are doing with AUSTRAC. There are other customers in retail and financial services with whom we are delivering those type of services. But I still, I would want to give the chair to Prashant in a minute. The last part of our capabilities around platform and technology transformation. We specialize in applications lifecycle management. We use the more sort of recent techniques around DevOps, Scale Agile, and things like that. The verticals that we work with are mentioned on the bottom of the slide. So we work with banking, fintech, media, retail, healthcare, and enterprise services. I think I did mention also that last year, based on the work that we've done with one of our US clients, we were given the 2019 Power BI Partner of the Year award by Microsoft. We are working on a number of Power BI and visualization engagements with other clients. I'd say so much for Nihilent speak, and I will pass the thing back to Prashant. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Robin, very much, and thanks, Chris, as well. Thanks for the introduction, Chris. So I am not going to probably spend more time on the introduction anymore. I think it's best to get into the topic of the discussion today. Right. So a lot of the organizations have ambitious plans on data analytics and artificial intelligence, and the good thing is that there is a constant increase in investments on the data platform or analytics and so on. However, what is happening is around the globe and in many countries is that half of the organizations still feel that they are not competing on data and analytics, after doing all these investments, so many investments, and even less than half of these companies feel that they still don't have a data-driven organization, or that the data is giving them results from a business point of view. And so it's a known fact. Many people agree that almost 55% of the data, or half of the data that companies collect, it's not that organizations don't collect data, they do collect data, but it is hardly ever used or put to a meaningful use where you can actually get some value for the business. So why is it happening? Investments are growing, but yet people are saying that probably they're still not realizing the full potential. But on the other hand, there are organizations who have done something, and they are able to see, they're able to get value out of this investment. So what are those organizations doing? What what to address those challenges that they see in in the big data output. So if you look at what's happening, most of you will agree that technology is not the barrier anymore. If you want to do analytics, if you want to do artificial intelligence, machine learning, we have so many options today. Whether you want to do it on the cloud or you want to do on premises, there are plenty of options. In fact, there are so many options that it might confuse somebody coming into this field and trying to set up a data platform or an analytics platform. Obviously, Hadoop last decade, in fact, Hadoop actually was the leader of this entire technology pack. And then for the entire decade, there were a lot of technologies that came around Hadoop itself. But then, there were more technologies that came related to the multi-parallel processing, the massively parallel processing databases came along, like Teradata and Google's BigQuery. We had a lot of advancements on NoSQL databases, machine learning, deep learning. There are, TensorFlow, PyTorch, analytics, business intelligence. Lots of these things came into the picture. And yet what happens is that organizations still feel, what we saw on the earlier slide, is that we are not able to get the full value that we expect from data. So what could be those reasons? And in my experience, having worked with many different organizations, I feel there are three important elements which we need to address whenever we start looking for or start building a platform for analytics and managing the big data that we have. And those three things are essentially very simple, straightforward to actually understand. One is analytics and big data platform. Inevitably, if you are if you are going to have large amount of data, whether your internal data or external data, inevitably you are going to require a mix of these technologies. You are going to require something as a data lake, as a data warehouse, and then some ETL tools and analytical tools and BI and so on. So the first thing is how seamlessly, what is the level of seamless integration you can achieve between these two different components of big data. I think that's the most important part that I've seen in successful organizations, that they have been able to do that very, very nicely. The second one is the platform that you're going to build and provide, is that going to be agile enough? The reason I say so is because the use cases for analytics, BI, they keep changing. Once an organization is satisfied with a certain number of use cases, the business users are definitely going to move on to new use cases. And the nature of big data is such that everyone knows big data is defined by those 3 V's, like volume, velocity, and variety. And therefore, you basically need to make sure that you are agile. Your platform is agile enough to address the new requirements that come from the business. And the third part is, the users of your platform should, they're always going to like having a self-service BI or self-service analytics, basically self-service capabilities in order to do so. They would definitely want to look at the data themselves, do their own data preparation or data evaluation and so on, and then get into analytics and data science. So I think if you're able to address these three things while you choose any of these technologies that you see on the screen, and if you're trying to build a platform, I think then the level of adoption of what we build is going to improve. And I think we'll talk about some of the case studies that we have, what are those things that those organizations did better than the others. So what happens is, I just wanted to step back a little bit and get into, how do we start building an analytics platform? And in order to have analytics in BI, we definitely need to have a solid, good data management platform. So usually in most cases, organizations will start with a POC, and that is the right thing to do. We definitely want to do either a proof of concept, or you want to do a pilot, and that's the right thing to do. So what we do is we pick up one or two use cases, business use cases. We extract the required information from a few data sources. We put that information into a central data store, and we choose some of the analytics algorithms. We create a model. and then we create some output in terms of predictions or reports. And at this point of time during the POC stage, usually our focus is more on the accuracy of the model, the output of the model, right? So we are not so much concerned about the other elements of managing this big data store. And so this becomes our sandbox environment. It's a much more controlled environment where there are not any other distractions and expectations from the enterprise. So it's more of a controlled environment where we have limited involvement of one or two business teams, and we are working together with them, and we create a POC. But as soon as you say that, okay, my POC or my pilot is good, now I want to extend this to my entire enterprise, let me start using it for my entire business or my organization. I think that's where we come face to face with the enterprise level challenges. And some of those are, first thing is that you would basically come across a lot of more data sources. And those data sources will be a variety of nature, variety of sizes. They might be streaming data, batch data, unstructured data, structured data, and so on. The second thing that we definitely have to address is, since there's a mix of data sources, we definitely need to have a central data store that can cater to all these data sources, because we have to bring these data sources into one central place in order to make some kind of to have an analytics engine run on it, and to make sense of all these different data elements. Now, in some cases, you might not be able to store all the data in one technology. You might need a combination of a data lake or RDBMS and a data warehouse and so on. Then the next thing that you will start looking at is how do I process and standardize this data, because you definitely will have to do data standardization, the data cleaning, data quality checks. So there's a lot of processing involved. And once you start looking at the number of pipelines increase, definitely then you want to automate everything. And that's where the data orchestration comes into picture, so that you can automate all your data ingestion pipelines or the data capture pipelines. And also you can automate the processing, as well as automate the process of giving data to your end users or to your downstream systems. And then finally, on the right hand side, if you see, what you come across is the number of requests or the demands that come to you from different departments or businesses is quite different, right? I mean, they vary a lot. It's not just some reports that they will ask for, right? They're going to ask for analytics. They're going to ask for machine learning, which they want to do themselves. So they're going to ask you to provide data for their machine learning use cases. Self-service BI is going to be a huge ask. Always, in some cases, businesses might just tell you, just give me the data into a data mart, and we will take care of the rest. So they will just ask for different things as the requirements changes, and that's where I think then you start facing a lot of this enterprise level demands and requests. And so how do you actually balance this, right? So on the left hand side, you have the data publishers. On the right hand side, you have the data consumers, and your responsibility is to provide a platform which is agile, as we saw on the last slide, which has to be agile, so that you can quickly move all these terabytes of data, and you are able to clean it and provide it in the format the consumers want. And how would you provide as self-service, as much as possible? Maybe, I agree, probably we might not be able to provide 100% self-service, but what is the best that we can do? So those are the things that we will have to planning for. And in order to do that, in order to make sure that the users are able to adopt, our platform, I think these are the six things I think we should put in place, and I will talk about the 6 things in detail, but it's not that we have to put them in place on day one. Obviously it's a very huge task, and there's a lot of investment that will go into it. But obviously, I think we should have a plan for this. How are we going to do this? And these are not sequential things. This can be done in parallel, or the order is not sequential. I just given the order by the priority, by the importance that I feel it should be. But it's important to get these 6 things into place. So first thing is high speed of data acquisition and processing. In most of the engagements that I've worked, and I'm talking about engagements where there is big data that has to be handled. I think accuracy, obviously the accuracy and the data quality is important, but speed of data acquisition and processing is going to remain a very big demand from the business users, because the data is large. The decision making has to be fast. So how soon can we capture the data, process it, store it, clean it, and provide it to the end users is going to be always important. The second part is metadata capture, the metadata management and data catalog. That's essential because your central data store, whether it's a combination of data lake, data warehouse, or DBMS, whatever it is, you are going to collect tons of data in terabytes, hundreds and millions of files will come in different formats, and therefore the users of your data will need a mechanism to find and search data, and metadata is going to be a big help over there. The third is data quality, and there's a debate going on whether who's responsible for data quality. Is the creator or the producer, publisher of data responsible, or the person who is using? And I think, in my view, the publisher of the data most probably should be the owner of the data quality as well. But that set apart, still, I think the platform needs to provide some elements for checking data quality, some tools, some processes for checking data quality. And the fourth is master data management. This is a big thing, especially if you're bringing data from many different data sources and systems, and maybe from business divisions. Maintaining a master list is absolutely a critical factor, because otherwise, your reports, your downstream analytics reports, they are not going to match. If you don't have a common, as a single source of truth, right? If that is not there for the master data, it's going to create problems from a uniform understanding of the reports. The fifth one is data security and access control, another element very important in terms of how do you secure the data which you collect from different data sources, especially HR related data, personal related data, PII data, finance related. So they are going to demand before they they give the data for your analytics purpose, they're going to demand how are you going to secure that data. The last one is data lineage. Usually business users will want to, whenever they see the reports, they will also want to see how did that data arrive to the report, through what phases did the data go through, where was it stored, who changed it, which process changed it, when it was changed and modified. So that's something going to be demanded. I think so. These are the factors which are very essential for the adoption of the data platform. And while I talk about my case studies, I think I will also highlight which of these factors were being actually leveraged or used in that particular project or the program. So just a quick recap of the 6 things that I talked about. The first thing, as I said, high speed of data acquisition and processing is, I think, a very critical element in most of the big data analytics programs. The simple reason being, the data is going to be in different formats. The size is going to be big, and the business is going to demand that the processing has to happen very quickly. I have a few customers where, they have progressed from processing a data once in a day. Now they actually literally process data almost every 2 to 3 hours, batches. And of course, in streaming, the IoT data or the streaming data is processed immediately. And I'll talk about one of the case studies about that as well. The second one is metadata management. As I said, it's very important for that to be in place. Metadata capture, because the users need to search your data, right? I mean, they need an ability to find out which data sets are useful for them if they want to do analytics. If there's a data scientist, if there's a business user, they definitely want to know, if I come into the data lake, what are the data sets that are available to me? And the data catalog is a great tool for letting them know what's there in our central data store. Data quality management, as I said, the responsibility could lie with the owner of the data sets or with somebody else. That's debatable, but I think 6 dimensions are important on data quality management. These are very traditional from the book, 6 dimensions, nothing new about it. If people have worked in this area, they know about it: accuracy of data, completeness of data, consistency, timeliness, validity, uniqueness. Nothing has changed for that 6 dimensions. They remain the same. Master data management, I think this is a lot important. In many cases, master data management is not in place. And therefore, when we build a big analytics platform or a BI platform, we suddenly realize that we don't have a common list of our entities, our customers, our products, our marketing zones. We don't have a common list even across the different business units in the organization. And then how are we going to generate reports that are consistent with each other, right? And that's where I think master data management is highly important to keep a central list of those elements. The second last one is data security. I talked about it earlier. It's important. Four, I think, elements that are important in data security. One is, of course, user authentications. That's a given. User access control. You might, in many cases, people are going to ask for role-based access and even item-level security. So when the data comes into your database, whether it's your transactions or your products, item-level security will become important in many of the situations. Data encryption is important. Network security becomes highly important. So these four elements are required to secure the data when it comes into big data elements. The last is data lineage. I talked about it. How do the users are going to demand data lineage, want to track the data back to its origin? How do you do it? Most probably there are not many tools available to do that. So you probably have to log all your data movements and ETLs and transformations. As you do the data transformations, you have to log it somewhere, combine those logs with the data like catalog, and make sure that you actually have that system in place for if somebody wants to track the data back to its original form. So having said that, I think those are the six things in my view, which are essential to basically make sure that the users find your platform is agile enough to provide them the data whenever they need it, in what format they need it. And if we want to enable them to do self-service, then I think those 6 things have to be in place in some form or the other. Automated would be great, absolutely. And as I said, not necessary that it has to be all done on day one. That can be built gradually, but the direction should be of moving towards those 6 things. Slowly or one by one or in parallel, but we should go in that direction. That's what I feel. So I have a few examples here regarding how we did this project. So the first example I have is we built a modern data warehouse for a financial services company. This is a organization or a company that actually lends. This is one of the top lender for consumer electronics. So top lender for consumer entities and commercial entities. And these consumers are like small, medium, large, all kind of entities they lend to. And their business model basically is dependent on how quickly do they acquire their customers when they're lending. So if you see over here, they already have 24 million customers. So that's pretty large size. So the amount of data that comes in every day is very high. And they have plans to acquire at least 30 million more prospects. So that's pretty much large. And the existing data warehouse itself has gone into terabytes. So it's a lot larger. And if you see at this, the customer acquisition, it typically happens in peaks. It's not uniform throughout the year. So during the festival season, that's where they require a lot of, they acquire a lot of their customers during the festival season. So what it implies for the data platform is that the data platform has to be highly scalable and it has to be highly elastic. So the usage is going to be very low, normal throughout the year, but then there are going to be spikes, the elasticity. So the data platform has to scale suddenly for a period of 2 to 3 weeks when they have the maximum customer activity. And that's very important, was very important for this data platform. And it had to be very fast also during this period of time. So what this organization does is also that using this data, they do a lot of things. So they do a lot of rapid customer segmentation for campaign management, and try to get real-time insights for the debt collection as well. One another good example or a good thing I wanted to point out about this platform is, if you see the right-hand side, this circle over the wheel over here, this is how actually they build their platform, slowly one piece at a time. So they started with the loan management system. We worked with them. We designed the entire, their modern data warehouse on cloud, and That's how this process started with the ETL and data cleaning and so on, and the reports at the end of it. And then as we learned and the customer also realized the value, that's where we started adding other business units onto this platform. Then later on, then collections were added, prospects were added, risk prediction, campaign management. These were added later on, and I think that was a very good way of actually learning and seeing what is working, what is not working, and eventually building a very good platform over here. This is how it looks at a very high level. Of course, there are many elements in this platform, but just wanted to give at a very simplistic high level view of how it looks like. So the data comes into data lake, and then it is being processed and kept ready for the final consumption in a data warehouse, and again in a data lake as well. But the important part is, why this program was successful is because there has been a continuous effort to actually improve the speed and the speed of data capture and processing. We have been working with this organization for the last 3.5 years, and we have always continuously have come up, have leveraged the new technologies that have come up to actually speed up how we do processing very quickly. And as I said, the earlier the processing used to happen in once in a day, and now we do it literally every 2 to 3 hours as the data comes in. And the data is quite huge. I mean, it goes into, sometimes it goes into 2 million rows at a time in a batch, the batch data that comes in. So high speed of data acquisition, attention to data quality throughout this entire process, and attention to data security. I think these were the 3 elements which actually made sure that the business users were happy. They adopted this program, and it got extended to all the business units. The second example I want to touch upon is how we can use the data for customer experience. Connected customer experience. This is a small aircraft manufacturer, and we were working with them to leverage the data for a lot of other things like warranty analytics and for predictive analytics. So those were more operational things that the data was used for. A very good use case came in where we said, why can't we use the same data for the customer experience, the experience of the pilot and the owner of the aircraft, so that we can use the same data, process it very quickly, and show the live status of the aircraft. So right now we collect using IoT. The data is being transferred within 2 to 3 minutes. It gets processed, and it has been fed to the mobile application, which the pilot of the aircraft or the owner of the aircraft can see. The vitals of the aircraft, like what is the fuel levels, what is my oil levels, and so on. So these are all the different elements that are shown on a mobile application very quickly, immediately. So the same data being used for different purposes. So this is a very good example of that. So the data is immediately, as you see here, the data is immediately processed in a few minutes, and then made available for on the mobile application for the end user. So they have a very good customer experience in that sense. They know exactly what is the status of their aircraft at a given point of time. But at the same time, we also then collect the data and then use it for predictive analytics, predictive maintenance basically, and also for warranty analytics as well. So again, here, high speed of data acquisition, data quality, and master data management was important, because sensors had to be made. We had to make sure that the list of the sensors is correct across all the aircrafts, all the different types of aircrafts, I mean. And that was an important part of it. I'm very proud to say that we were awarded for this engagement. We were awarded by Microsoft last year. We were the Power BI Partner of the Year globally, and this was a fantastic experience for us. The third element that I have is, or the third use case that I have is, we were working for a bank for reducing their operational risk. And this is a bank that has more than 5 million customers, more than 1,000 branches, 2,000 ATMs. And the most important element was to bring the data from their various data sources. They have almost 45 data sources. Some of them are in the proper core systems like financial related system, banking related systems, which run on huge databases of Oracle and so on. And also they had other systems where, like for example, ATMs have their own systems and their own data collection mechanism. So those are different data sources as well. And then there are some unstructured data sources which don't directly come from like oracles and the ATMs. So they come from their internal processes. So how do you make sense of all this data, bring it together, and make sure that the branch manager has all the right information that is needed for that person to know how, what is the status of a branch. And above the branch manager, there are regional managers. So here are just some of the examples of reports that we were able to create after we built a central, a data lake and a modern data warehouse for them. And here, I think the core important piece was that actually the data security and access control, because the data came in from different systems, and also there had to be security maintained across the different states where these branches were operating, the different regions that they have internally, and also the branch managers. And then within the branches, they had different employees who would be able to access the reports based on the level of the hierarchy where they are and the role that they play. So filtering the data properly as per the role of the user and as per the branch that the user is associated with, that was very important, and that had to be built into all these elements. So if you see, the data security had to be built into each of these elements of the blob data storage that you see here. Then you have a data warehouse, then a semantic layer, and then finally the reports. So that's one of the aspects, I think, for big data management that I think people should be aware about. That there is no magic tool where we can take that tool and apply data security to all the elements of big data. Usually, you will have these kind of you will need these kind of components in a big data platform, like a blob storage, a data lake, or a data warehouse, a semantic layer, or something like that. And there will be some ETL processes running all across these. And it is very, so the security has to be applied at all these stages. That's one of the things that the data platform demands today. And it has to be done on each of these separate pieces separately. Again, master data management was the key over here, and data lineage was one of the important things, because the branch managers always wanted to know, how this data was processed, who had processed, was this data reconciled. That was very important for them, to see if there are deposits in the bank, is this amount of deposits matching with what they actually have with their books. So the reconciliation back to their books was highly important for them to make sure that that what they saw on the reports was very, very accurate. I have two more examples. And I'm going to go through them very quickly. This one this is about a large manufacturer. The difference, the peculiarity of this one is that this manufacturer had two hierarchies at a very high level. One is the product hierarchy. They had thousands of products, and within the products, they had like 4 or 5 levels deeper hierarchy. Same thing went for the sales team as well, right? So there were 2 levels. One is they didn't directly sell into the market, so they had the stockists, and then they had the dealer. So the secondary and the tertiary levels were there. And then their own sales team also had a hierarchy in terms of going to the states, then the regional level, city level, and so on. And so here the important part again was just like this earlier example of the bank. Here again, because of the hierarchy, the data security and access control was important. How do you, at the right level, what is the right data that you collect and then generate a report for that particular person. And again, being products, master data management, very important, where you have a single list of masters. If your data is coming from SAP or any other ERP, and your data is also coming from CRM, your data is coming from manufacturing systems, having a master list of all your products, highly important in this kind of a situation. And of course, data quality, again, in terms of missing data, how do you match and merge data into a single entity. The last example I'm going to talk about is this is an education organization that works in education field. 21 schools, 12,000 students, and a lot of data systems. So the IT systems were in place already. Like they already had CRM, ERP, learning management system, student management system, asset management system. Those things were in place. What they were is all the systems were mostly in the cloud that they had. So in the cloud, because they subscribe to software as a service kind of a systems. in most cases, right? Even for accounting, CRM, everything was in the cloud. And so getting reports out of them, the main area here, or the main task that we had to do was to actually get the data from these cloud systems or the software as a service systems, and basically relate them to each other, because these were independent systems. It was, these were not related in terms of, they had a student list in one system. For example, the student management system had a student list which did not necessarily match exactly with what they had in the accounting system, or in their HR related or the ERP system. And therefore that was an important part of making sure that we got them aligned together. So that's most of that is part of the data acquisition and data management. And metadata was important because these are the cloud systems, so each of them had their own different metadata. So bringing it into one place, relating it to each other, and showing it to the business that this column in your CRM means exactly the same column in your in your student management system. So in the CRM it might be called as date of birth, whereas in your online accounting system or your student management system it might be called as just a DOB. But making sure that you map it and say, these are the same elements, that was highly important for the success of this particular application. So those were my 5 examples to talk about. I just want to conclude quickly, summarize this. When we start analytics and BI, we are going to need some kind of a data platform, and because of the current nature of technologies that are available, they might become complex in many situations in terms of the number of technologies you have to choose, and therefore you definitely need architectural expertise and some diverse skill sets to make these technologies to work with each other, to make them seamless and automate those things. The second thing is business requirements and technologies. As I said, your use cases for analytics, they are going to change continuously. After the success of one use case, people are going to come up with new use cases, and therefore I think this big data projects, I don't think they should be dealt as projects. They should be more like programs and initiatives where we should respond. The platform should be able to respond to the demands of analytics, machine learning, or whatever the end user comes up with. I think that's very important, and that's where the agility is required. And last of all is the self-service BI and analytics. The demand for that is going to grow, keep growing. And if we have to make sure that our platform is adopted or used, I think this is important that we are able to automate a lot of these things that I talked about, and so that self-service is possible, right? So if we do seamless integration and do automation, I think self-service is possible, maybe not 100%, but to a large extent it is possible to do that. That has been my experience across all these projects. So with that, actually I end. That was my conclusion. With that, I end my talk, and I hand it back to Caitlin.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much, Prashant. And just like we mentioned earlier, please feel free to fill out any questions that you have in the questions pane, and we will get to them as much as possible in the next about 10 minutes. So we have a few already in the queue. So the first one is, how do you get organizations to give access to its audience? And do you have any experience in role mapping?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a good question. Yes, I think so. All these technologies or the platforms that you use, they will come up with some kind of element where you can actually provide access, right? So one is, you would create roles and add those people to the roles, and then those roles will basically have to be given access to these different systems. So if you have, let's say, a data lake, then obviously you have to make sure that their data is segregated. So we call it as zones basically. So there's a disciplined way of storing data in a data lake, right? So that it doesn't become a big mess later on when you bring in a lot of data. So the zones have to be created. Those the access permissions have to be given to the zones, and people should be added to the roles. similar kind of a mechanism, but they will vary. So once you go into data warehouses have been in place for many years or many decades. So they are a lot more mature in terms of managing accesses. They give you a lot of different facilities on how to add roles and users. And a lot of these data warehouses go to a level of even giving you access to the row level, like the item level security, or even a column level, right? So even they offer you a column level security as well. So in case you want to hide the PII data from certain set of users, that is possible. So the only thing, as I said, is all these technologies, they have their own mechanisms of giving access to users. And therefore, there's no one single tool where you can actually say, I will use this tool to manage the security and access controls across my big data project. We have to do it for each technology that you choose. We have to go into it and do the setup one time. So yeah, that is there.
Great, thank you. Next question we have is, who in an organization is responsible for data definition?
Yeah, I think the data definition should. So yeah, I think it's a good question, because what happens is across the organizations, you will typically not find a central place where one central entity or one central person is actually responsible for data definition across the business units. So traditionally, what people used to do is they used to assign somebody from the IT, because IT was a central where you could collect all the data from different systems and tell somebody in the IT that, okay, now you collect the data from everyone and do the data definition for us, so that we all adhere to that definition across everything. The good thing is, lately, a lot of the organizations are putting the CDO in place, and I think that's a better place where the data definitions should be decided. But again, that has to be done by talking to all the business units. And most probably, I think people should use a tool in order to do that, so that there is uniformity. So first of all, you will already have systems. So you have to collect the data from all the systems and then do the data definitions, and then basically publish it back, so that the systems can then align to whatever you all have agreed in order to do the data definitions.
Wonderful. Another question is, what role does RPA play in data science and analytics? Is it more of a kind of automation process where you create bots?
Absolutely. So RPA is more of a process automation, where you bring in you collect the data, put it into those data sources, or sorry, the central databases or data lakes. So RPA to a little extent could be used to bring the data into a big data platform, but I think as far as processes are concerned, I think we actually require robust ETL, extract, transform, and load. So the ETL tools actually to do that. RPA is a little bit different. RPAs are mainly for the business processes, whereas what we require for analytics, BI, and big data platform management is something different actually.
Another question. So in the examples where you spoke about the successful implementation, did those organizations create 6 capabilities all up front or before building the data platform?
No, absolutely not. As I mentioned, none of these, they created all the 6 capabilities up front. In fact, they don't even have all the 6 capabilities up front, but they have been good in whatever 3 or 4 capabilities they built. I think these organizations, they definitely did that over a period of time. And as I said, it is very difficult to do it upfront, and that also on day one, or do it 100% at one go, because when you are building these data platforms and analytics, we are also learning, right? What is useful, what is not useful, what are the challenges you're going to face, what is the data quality that you have, what are the end users actually looking for. And therefore, I think these organizations did it step by step, but they had what was different from other organizations is that they had a plan. They knew that they had to put these things into place. So they didn't let their data lake or the data warehouse become a data swarm. right? So, and they made sure that they continue to focus on automation and putting these things in place, like metadata capture, for example. When you start metadata capture or master data management, it is not going to be 100% perfect on day one. But as long as the focus is there and you keep improving month by month, year by year, I think then it starts giving out the results.
Wonderful. The next question. So how do you deal with source data being wrong or inaccurate and data sitting outside of it being correct? Follow-up is, how does one clean up the data and make the rest of the organization trust the source data?
Yeah, I think, well, I think the first thing that we have to do, as in the case of the use case I talked about, the education, the company that works in the education sector, we have to, first of all, collect the data. There are statistical ways of finding the data quality. And these are pretty standard. If you look up into any documentation, you will find that. So there are a few statistical ways of determining, you know, what is the data quality on my different data sets. And once I know at a high level, without getting into too much of depth and without investing too much of time, if I know what are the issues that I have, you know, data quality would mean that data is not matching from different systems. There is no consistency, there's no accuracy, you know, or even sometimes the data fields might not be even complete. So once I know what are my biggest issues, I think then we can start putting a strategy in place. And there's no need to actually go and buy a tool upfront. You know, I think these are some things that we should just do it by hand initially. You know, the data exploration. Just have one person to go and do all those, find from a statistical way, find out what the issues are. And then basically it's better to talk to the data owners or where the data is getting created. So if it is, let's say, a front-end portal where the data is being captured, if it is your e-commerce portal, or if it is your core system, like in the case of banks, the way the data is entered. So where are the issues? It's always better to fix the data at the origin, because it becomes very expensive and time consuming if you try to fix the data later. So that's one way of doing it. Most people, and I am a supporter of that view, that data cleaning should happen at the origin of the data itself. But if that's not a possibility for you, you still have to build something, and I mean, you still have to build a data platform. Then the onus comes on the person who is actually providing a data platform to the rest of the world, and that's where then you know, we have to use. There are many approaches to do that. There are tool-based approaches. There are some mature tools over there which can help you to do data cleaning. And there are manual, like you can write a code as well, right? Your own code. And my preference is that start with writing your own logic and your own code, basically, so that you know what the issues are. And then once you know what are the issues, then you'll be in a better position to select a tool if you want to. But jumping upfront and trying to get a tool is probably not a good idea. First, trying to understand what the quality issues are, where should those be fixed, and then coming up with a plan. And if that plan requires a tool, then go for a tool.
Wonderful. And I want to give you enough time to close out. So that is the end of the Q&A section. So Robin and Prashant, if you want to close us out and talk about the ideation session, that would be great.
Yes, I'll just come in, Caitlin. Thank you for that. Let me thank our audience who've joined us today. It's from a wide cross section of our existing clients, partners, and of course, you know, people who we are talking to about their current data initiatives and so on. Very happy to take extra questions. There are 2 email IDs which have been provided, so feel free to reach out to any of us. And you know, we will be conducting a whole series of upcoming webinars. So every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we'll have fresh topics or new topics on which we will conduct these webinars. So stay tuned for those. And once again, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.